Hello and welcome to my podcast. It is called the Ridgeline Podcast. It's going to be episode 3. Today's June 10th, 2021, and thank you for listening. And today's episode is going to be based around the Leonard Skinner plane crash movie. It came out, last year or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe 2 years ago. Anyway, it was made a while back. But then I think it might have been even completed. It was just shelved, as Devin likes to say. It was shelved, and then it was basically brought back because brought into existence of an actual film because of the company that made the film. They really tried to fund it and all, and really put money into lawyers and stuff to win, against the estates and whatnot, and not going to get into that, but the estates of Ronnie and all that bull crap. But anyway, he basically, they won it back, and Artemis got his movie out, and I've heard some interviews about the movie with him talking about it, and basically, he said that it took a while, but they finally got it out, and that he really likes the movie, and it's from his point of view, and I believe they really went off of him for this movie, really bounced off of him for the writing and such, and I know it was a low budget movie, just because of all the lawsuits and such, but anyway, that ridiculousness, but anyway. But despite that, it still turned out to be a really great film, in my opinion. But actually, Devin didn't think so. He didn't think it was a great film by any means. And honestly, I think he's just full of crap. And anyway, I just really, me and him just don't have any of the same opinions. And we're just like, he's just so full of crap. Like, I can't even tell you. Like, he likes all these albums. Like, he said his favorite album of all time was 5150. And then you turn around and you say his favorite film is Saw 3. I mean, those are honestly the two worst pieces of anything that this world has ever seen. This country, that's what this country needs. Yeah, right. Is more 5150 copies in FYE. No, that is not happening. There will be. I will see to it that there are no more 5150 copies made. Period. There will be no more new copies. There will be burnings of copies. It will be digitally. It would be deleted off every platform digitally, and it would be completely conquered from off the face of the planet Earth. It's so bad. And so that's my opinion on that, and now we move on. So, to get to the main point of the episode, yes, the Skinner plane crash movie was a low budget, and can you tell that? In my opinion, no, not really. I like the actors. I think they did a really good job. And period. I mean, it might have been a little. The acting maybe would have been a little off. Like maybe the tone would have been a little off because that's just what happens sometimes. If they get actors that are not very familiar with the actual characters that these people were in real life, then if they really would have had to study a long time and listen to, I mean, I know there's not a lot to go off of as far as just their overall personality and the way they might have talked, but if you listen to interviews, there's interviews out there of stuff like Ronnie Van Zant, and all the band members of, just about all of them have been interviewed at one point or another, and I'd venture to say probably all of them have at some point in time, or even more. Some than others. Mainly probably Gary's been interviewed more than any of them, to be honest. But that's just because for some reason they just kind of flock to him, the media, and if people are going to interview somebody from Skinner, it's going to be Gary for whatever reason. They just think just because he's still in the band, they think that's just that he's going to know the stuff, and that he puts down all these other people, and say that Artemis never could play and all this, and we all know that's BS. I call it on that one. I mean, that's just plain out ridiculousness. He made it out like, really, he didn't even want to admit that Artemis ever was any good at drums. He just made it sound like that, he just never was that good, and he just even got worse as time went on. I mean, you honestly can't think that in your right mind. I mean, let's be real. Listen to some live shows and stuff. If you know anything about drumming, you can ask Devin. Artemis just, he's a really good drummer, bottom line. And, all jokes aside, yes, he's a great drummer. And, yes, the movie was a little bit, the acting might have been just a little bit off. But other than that, the overall theme of the movie, the overall, the overall direction the movie was trying to go is what I'm trying to say. I'll put it like this. It was trying to go in a certain direction with the overall meaning of it and the overall tone of the movie, if that makes any sense. And it really stayed on that same path. And it was a fine line. It was a good mix between conversations and showing like the plane and stuff, and showing really what would have went on. Like, for example, it started off with Artemis being called to have a drum off for an audition, and they didn't actually wind up having the drum off. They just gave Artemis the job, and because I guess he's the only one that either showed up, or I don't know what the story is with that, but it from what I remember, I could be wrong, but there never actually was an actual drum off. It just, he might have, played with the band and whatever, but he, there was no competition. He just went in there and tried out, and it was it. They just took him on, and I can see why, because his particular drum style just fits perfectly with, Skinner music. And, I have no idea what his background was before that, if he had ever been in any other bands, and, I really don't know how he even came to know the band of Leonard Skinner, anybody in the band, or how he even got the tryout, I'm kind of interested to know that story. But anyway, basically what I'm trying to get at is it was a great film in my opinion, and I mean, I think it's a really. I've heard myself. I listened to some of our podcasts, in the past couple of days, and I remember before it even came out, Devin had started talking about it, and that it was going to come out, and then I was like, well, I think it's a good idea. Even then, I didn't know anything about it, and it turned out to be that it was. Within a few days leading up to the crash, and not just the whole thing, wrapped. That would have been hard to wrap into one movie if I really think about it. It would have turned out more like a documentary if they would have tried to, to tell like from the start of the band all the way until, 77. That would have been too long. It would have ended up being like a 4 or 5 hour documentary. So I can see that. The way they did, the direction they went with this movie, honestly, I don't know what other direction they could have went in, and it it worked, or it would have been any, good or anything, and the way that they kind of led up to the majority of the movie is leading up to the crash, and then you get to the crash, and it's been a while since I've seen it, but it seems like this is the way it was structured. They really, it seems like Artemis really got into, replicate exactly what they said and all back then. He probably remembered exactly some of the conversations. Like, for example, one time you heard one of them say something to the effect of, well, they had just got through recording the Street Survivors album, and there was a tour for this album, I'm assuming, and because it was like October, and I'm not sure what month, but I know it was in '77 that the album came out, Street Survivors, and then right before that, they had recorded it again. Well, they had recorded it once, and then Tom Dowd had produced it and mixed it and everything, and they just couldn't release it because it sounded terrible. And I think I've even heard a demo of what one of them sounded like, and it sounded terrible. Like, the sound that Street Survivors album had, it was nothing like the Skinner had ever done before. Skinner before that was like, raw and rough production. It was, kind of a nitty-gritty sound, kind of a dirty sound, southern rock. That's the only way I can describe it. But now you got 77 Street Survivors, and you got, Tom Dowd, I think, trying to, keep it raw, and, it just doesn't come out right. For some reason, this album, the way these songs were structured on Street Survivors, it needed to be more of, like a different kind of production. Like, it didn't need to be rough. It needed to be very structured. It was a very structured album, and it had horns at some points in it and stuff like that, and backup vocals, and they had backup vocals before, but you can tell it was just done on the spot, and you could tell they spent a lot of time trying to structure this album perfectly, and otherwise it wouldn't have been a great album at all. And but anyway, they were great songs, but they really could only be done one way, and the way they were done was exactly that way, I think. And if you just get the gist of what I'm saying, it seems like I'm trailing off, but what I'm getting to is he said, I'm just telling you the backstory of it. I think it might have been Leon or something, the guy that played Leon in the movie, and he said something to the effect of, like, well, it ought to be. It's a pretty good album. We had to record it. We recorded it twice or something like that, And I thought that was kind of funny because it didn't really go over as well in the movie because, it's just something about the way he said it. I don't know if anybody listening to this if you've seen the movie or you're going to see it, just watch out for that comment and just see if you get the same vibe I did, because like the way that guy said it was just it sounded so lame and so off. Like, there's no way that they would have sounded like that, like if you watch a sitcom or something, or and they kind of say a lame joke or something, and like it's the guy that's not cool, and he's trying to hang around the other people, and he's trying so his hardest to fit in, but you can tell he's just not really good at it, and he's not fitting in, and he doesn't fit in there. That's what it seemed like to me. Not to overanalyze it, but that's what this episode is supposed to be on. So if you clicked on this video, then you might have expected an analysis of the movie as that's going to be the title. I haven't made the title yet, but that's going to be the title. So that's my rant for today. Sorry about that. But we're going to get back to the main subject of the movie. So basically, that's what I was getting to, is that the actors really, they did a good job, but at the same time, at certain points, it did seem a little off. But I mean, that's the only thing I can complain about the movie. I love the sound. I love the soundtrack. I really thought the representation just was overall really good. They kept the movie in a straight line, and what I mean by that is it didn't venture off into this or that, or delve into different things and try to, that is my pet peeve. It's just things trying to be a bunch of different parts at once and all this. And like 5150, for example, it had 10 parts in one song, and I was like, no, this is bad. It's pretty bad. And I just don't know. Anyway, so this movie was great, and thanks for tuning in. I really don't have much else to say. It's a great film, and I'm going to be coming out with a few more here soon. I'm going to do one on Saw 3, an episode. I'm kind of hold myself to that. I'm going to do an episode on Saw 3, definitely, because it is the worst film of all time, hands down. And then I'm thinking about doing a commentary after that. Then I'm thinking about possibly bringing Devin on to interview him or something at some point. But that would be interesting. But anyway, I could interview about him about some things, about being in the band of the Swinging Doors, and dealing with the menace that is Stephen Mott. He is just the hardest person to work with anybody has ever seen. Anybody that you talk to will tell you he is just completely just hard to work with. He is just a menace. He is retarded, and he needs to be thrown over the hill, and he's not even that good of a musician. So I'll ask Devin all about that if I ever get him on here with the interview, and you'll hear the audio. And I'll tell you the truth. This guy, Gary Rossington, I don't even know the guy. He has said so many different things now. I don't even care anymore. Like, I'm just gonna say it. He was running from the crash. He wasn't. People saw the plane go down. I mean, they were coming anyway. He wasn't running for help. He was just running because he thought the plane was going to blow up, and he was scared.
This is the first time I've ever said this, and nobody's ever said this, but in my own opinion, for real now, after all he said, he didn't save our lives. The plane crashed, and he was so freaked out looking at us all sitting there suffering and dying and burning. He ran away, I mean, people were coming to get us. They saw it go down. He didn't run off and get the people to come save us. That's his story.